Hello, so today we're going to be going over patch 13.6 for TFT. So this is the patch that's going to be up this upcoming Wednesday. I'm going to give my reaction as well as some insight to what I think is going on with some of these changes. But without much further ado, we'll get started. Please make sure to like and subscribe. I usually do VOD reviews as well as dedicated guide content for TFT, and I do a video every single day. These last couple days I've been doing some more for fun reactions and tier lists. So if you like any of that content, please make sure to like and subscribe because it helps me out as a small content creator. Now, let's go through these changes. So, system changes. Gold orbs have been rebalanced slightly. So, 12 gold. Greater dupe gives you more gold. The 4 cost gives you more gold. The 3 cost gives you 4 costs. Okay, there's nothing here that's a big... I think this is fair. So, my biggest problem with the gold orbs is that a lot of times... I don't know. It's hard to say. So, like, in my personal experience, I've been screwed over by gold orbs so many times because gold orbs, I think, can also give you a spat. Right? They can give you a spatula, and so many times people hit like Exodia spatula, and then I get like 2 4 costs. That is very like useless a lot of the times because like as well, like it's gold, it helps you out, but compared to like a spat, I feel like it's very obviously like you know, there's few comps where this doesn't help you, but like a lot of the times it's like, oh, that's a free +1 where spats are already very strong in the current meta. And sometimes I'll just get like a TG, right? I'll get like a thieves gloves and somebody will get a spat. Right, and a lot of these ones felt kind of underpowered relative to some of these other options. So I understand the rebalancing. We just gotta hope that it works out better. Maybe it'll feel better. Of course, it's like a little bit like, you know, it's hard to say. Oh, wait. Oh, these are the ones. Oh, this is stage 2. I guess you can't get it dropped on stage 2. Maybe it's stage 4 that I'm talking about. Yeah, I should have read a little bit more. They're dropping some of the gold. Yeah, the Thieves Glove one is sometimes good, sometimes bad. The Spat one's also really good. It gives you a Spat, a component anvil, and a Reforger versus a Thieves Gloves. Like can we just talk about this for a second? Like, which would you rather have? A Thieves Gloves and 4 gold, which I think is situationally really strong, obviously. But look at this. A Spat, a component anvil, and a Reforger, and gold. Like, thank God they're dropping the gold a little bit. Like, you can literally make anything with this. Like, I don't get it. Now, like, this is stage 4. I think you get a frying pan on stage 3 as well, which is a little bit less, like, broken. But, like, I don't know. Some of these, like, it feels weird, right? Thieves Gloves late is also good because you just put on a carry. Don't get me wrong. All of these are supposed to be equal in power. Just, like, I don't know. Some of these orbs, it just feels bad. So, hopefully, with these balance changes, it'll just feel better. Because I don't have a logical way to explain it. Because, like, obviously, like, you know, like, in some cases, you get a frying pan or a spat, and you're like, this is fucking useless as well. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't use, like, confirmation bias and be like, it was bad because I lost one game. I'm just hoping that they make it a little bit more balanced, because it just felt imbalanced. So that's at least what I felt. Automata. So they're buffing 4 and 6 automata. This seems to make sense. I think that 4 and 6 were a little bit weak, especially like if you're trying to play around automata units. You didn't really have warranted to play any of the automata units. Chem Baron. 4-piece Streaking Shimmer and 5-piece are getting increased by 5 and 10. This is a massive change. 200 and 300 rewards slightly increased. We'll have to see with the loot tables once the patch is actually out how this actually affects things. I think Chem Baron, I've seen people have success with it. I've seen people take multiple 200 or 300 cash outs and play towards Dominator, Silco, and Tempo and Fast 9 off of it. I definitely think that Chem Baron is in an okay spot. I know some people were like really like, you know, they ruined Chem Baron, blah, blah, blah after the last patch. I thought Chem Baron was way overpowered the last patch. And I think now it's like okay to play around very situationally. This might make it really good now. Like if you have an early 5-piece, like 5-piece means you have to find a Silco. So if you can find a Silco early, like, is this not just a massive amount? Like this is as much as you would get with like the previous 6, right? Like it's a lot. Like you might get those thresholds and hit those 500 cash outs and still have a little bit of HP to spare. Conqueror, they're increasing the 2 Conqueror. I think 2 Conqueror is kind of useless. So I don't know if this really makes a huge difference because I think Conqueror you can only really play if you have a good spot for it. So I wouldn't really worry about it. 8 Enforcer damage amp, they're dropping it by a lot, 8%. That makes sense. I think this was really strong, but it does require a Caitlyn and a Spat. So, you know, it's supposed to be really strong. So it makes sense. Family mana reduction is getting increased. This is actually pretty massive. For family, a lot of times what you would do is you would put a family emblem on Echo because of the mana reduction. So like this actually makes it so that when you have a family emblem, it makes the comp a little bit more consistent, a little bit more powerful. This mana reduction is huge, and it's why family emblem is really good on certain units. So yeah, that's a good buff to family. We might see a little bit more family reroll. Form swapper, they're buffing. I think 4 form swapper is a massively strong comp, but it's always like a B comp because it's hard to like make it work. I recently had a game where I had 2 Jace 2s and I went 4th because it was just a mess of a game and I didn't have good items and stuff. I wish this came in a little bit before. But it's not that big of a damage thing, damage reduction or damage amp. But this does actually work with many different lines, right? A lot of times as a plan B, you can use it on Sorks, right? Especially with the extra DR. Basically, you would just play frontline Jace with Sorks, and you can play like 4 Form Swapper, 4 Sorks on level 9. You can play it with Emissary, but because you can just play 4 Emissary, 4 Form Swapper, you find a Jace. All this means is that, like, already something that should have been in the back of your head is every time you're doing a roll down and you have some sort of like Form Swapper style board, as soon as you see a Jace, you always hold on to a Jace. And now this is just buffing it a little bit more, because if you ever have a Jace, 4 Form Swapper was already a reliable out. It was like a saving grace a lot of the times is how you would put it. You wouldn't necessarily play towards 4 Form Swapper. You wouldn't say to myself, it's a Form Swapper game. But like, if you found a Jace on your roll down, you would just pivot into it because it was an out, right? It was like an out. Pit Fighter, this is crazy. They're increasing the heal by 10 on 4 and 6 Pit Fighter. It seems like a pretty big change. I'm not sure how massive it is, but just getting more heal seems pretty good. Like, Pit Fighter, I'm gonna be honest. I know this is gonna sound really weird or really dumb. I've lost to 6 Pit Fighter. I've had 6 Pit Fighters go first in my lobbies in Masters, right? Like, I'm pretty sure Pit Fighter is okay. It's just hard to play around because you're really reliant on Vi and you're really reliant on Sevika. But I think if you have a Pit Fighter +1, that you have a little bit of wiggle room in order to hit 6 Pit Fighter, I already think it's strong. So, like, not strong in the sense that it's like going first every comp, but it's like if you see Pit Fighter emblem, you can actually take it and play around it. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's very situational though. This might make it a little bit less situational, but god darn, if you have a Pit Fighter emblem, I think you're going to be in a good spot in the next patch. I think, I might be wrong. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't personally tried it out yet. It's on my list to try out if I have a good spot for that. But just be warned, you might see it. Might see it a little bit more. Also with the family buffs, Pit Fighter usually is how you cap out family reroll. We might see some more resurgence of like the Violet rerollers. Quick Striker, they're increasing the shield on the 4 Quick Striker. This kind of buffs like the melee Quick Striker build, so Quick Striker might become a little bit more reliable as a reroll. Often right now, it's a very reroll meta is what I find. A lot of times there's going to be a Trist, there's going to be an Urgot, there's going to be Renata. And a lot of times, like sometimes you'll find a Zeri in your lobby. There's multiple 2-cost rerolls that are really strong. Buffing 4 Quick Striker just adds this to the mix and makes it even more reroll focused. So I want to see some changes. Hopefully there's something that changes to make it feel like there's like a little bit more balance. But I think if we're talking about like the Libra scales, you know, and we're talking about like reroll and not reroll, this shit is heavily on reroll now right now. I think if you have a reroll spot, you almost always take it in the current state of the game, because it's just so difficult. A lot of the 4-cost comps are hard to spike because you need a lot of them rely on a certain 5-cost, right? If we put like 4 costs, I'm gonna say these are really bad right now. This is just like a general state of the meta. The 4-cost comps cap higher and are really strong, but they require a 5-cost, a lot of them, right? Sorks need LeBlanc, Scrap you usually want Rumble, Enforcer you usually want Caitlyn, Heimer you usually want Jace, etc., right? Like you can keep going on with the list. The thing is that if there's more rerollers in the lobby, it makes it harder for you to have the time to find the 5-cost. That's the main thing. When a reroll meta is the thing, when there's a lot of good reroll lines, it's like, do you really want to, like, let's say Sorks is busted, but you need a LeBlanc, right? If you're losing on stage 2 and stage 3 to a bunch of reroll players, you don't have a lot of HP to work with. You try and roll down on level 8, you don't hit LeBlanc, you're still strong, you can play for a top 4, but all the rerollers have 3-star units. You don't have the ability to like make it to level 9. You can't just say, okay, I'm stable, we go straight to 9. It's like, no, it's like you might win a couple rounds, but you might lose a couple rounds without the LeBlanc to capitalize on your Sork board. and you're playing against like the reroll lines, even like somebody, maybe they hit gloves off Vander, maybe somebody else hit like Unleash the Beast Urgot, like they have the hero augments going on, maybe somebody has like Trundle reroll with the trolling Trundle, you know what I mean? Like it's very difficult, and that's like the shift in the meta that happens a lot, right? When there's more 4-cost balance, it allows you to have wider strategies, right? Because you can level and play like towards more tempo, and you can try and get those 5 costs to cap out your board. And then, if you want to be like, against that and punish the people, then you can play more reroll. But if you buff too many reroll lines and there's too many rerollable units, guess what? You completely eliminate, like, nobody's ever going to try and play a 4-cost, because even uncontested, you won't be able to compete with a full lobby of rerollers. So I'm worried about Quick Striker changes, because I don't want there to be another reroll comp in the mix, because that's just going to make it like, if there's 5 people rerolling in your lobby, you're probably better off rerolling, because you also hit earlier, because everybody's hitting the same units, etc. But anyway, that's a little side note. Scrap 6-piece shield, it says 50 to 45. If this is a nerf, I think it's unwarranted. I don't think 6 scrap needs a nerf. I don't know if this is supposed to be reverse numbers and it's a buff. I don't know. That's fine. Check it on patch day. If it's nerfed, that's really bad for scrap, because like I don't get it. I don't even think it's that strong right now, because it's not as explosive. You need to have a really good spot for scrap a lot of the time. It's not as default as it used to be, so I don't get it. Sniper now gives 10, 40, 80% damage amp, and then it gives smaller amp per hex. So overall, this looks like a big buff. You might see some red numbers here, but these are massive changes. So I think that it will work out that it's, I think it will work out better, right? So 7 goes down to 5, and you get 10 base. So if you're 5 hexes away, which is like almost cross map, you're gonna like that, you have to be like 6 hexes away for the old numbers to be stronger. So this is definitely way more consistent and way more powerful. I think it's a good change. It's trying to make snipers a little bit more viable, like outside of just playing like 2 sniper. This is good for Twitch, because the problem with Twitch was that you just got so little value because of you can't reposition with experiment. So that's like a nice change. But I don't know how much this is going to change things, because I don't know. The biggest problem with 4 sniper is like it's hard to tell with these numbers looking at them, right? Like 40 plus 18 versus 18 times 3 or 4, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to like tell how big of a difference the numbers are, because the biggest problem with snipers is that you need to have a front line to support the snipers, and a lot of the snipers need time to ramp up, right? If you think about all the snipers, what's their best item? Pretty much all of them want a Gwinsu's, and like the only one that doesn't want a Gwinsu's is Caitlyn. And guess what? How do you win with snipers? With Caitlyn. That's usually how snipers cap out their board. If you're playing Twitch and you don't have a Caitlyn, it's a really hard top 4. If you're playing Zeri, like, that's different because you're playing a reroll comp. If you're playing like all these other comps, a lot of times when you're playing multiple snipers, you want the Caitlyn. Why? Because the Caitlyn just bursts out the damage instantly. It is so much better than all of the other ones, because the other ones are all attack speed demons that need to ramp up. So I don't know how this changes things, because if the damage is really high that they're killing units before they ramp up, then snipers are broken. If it's the same as before, that they need to ramp up in time, then it's probably going to be the same as before. That's very situational to play like these higher levels of snipers, because a lot of times, like, if you have a user like Twitch that needs to ramp up, it's better to just get more frontline to give him the potential to ramp up, to get those auto attacks off, than to decrease your front line and hope that you compensate with the extra damage. It's like that only really works once you have Caitlyn, because then Caitlyn just deletes everybody and you eliminate a lot of the threats on the board, and then when everybody's dead, Twitch can clean up because he ramped up. You get what I'm trying to say? Hopefully that makes sense. Sorks nerfing 6 and 4 and 6 AP. That seems warranted. I think Sorcerer is one of the better comps in the game. And then the healing on Visionaries reduced. I think that's one of the better units in the game. Obviously, Watcher, they're increasing. I think Watcher, they're kind of fallen off. I still believe in Watchers. I think Watchers are really strong in situational spots. But compared to some of the other frontline traits, it's a little bit more awkward to play around. So I can understand them buffing it a little bit. But I think all of these are just like little minor adjustments that aren't going to greatly change any of the comps. Let's go through champs. So Amumu buffs to the flat damage reduction is pretty good. Massive changes to powder. Actually not that massive. It's like, like, what is that, like 5%? Basically like a 5% ish buff, like 5 or 10% buffs. More attack speed on Draven is really good because starting AS is pretty powerful if you're trying to ramp up. I really think the family reroll line is going to be a thing again. Recently, family has been okay in some spots, but I think with a lot of these changes, pit fighter changes, changes to powder, changes to Draven, it's like all the family units are getting huge buffs, which is pretty massive. Also, automata buffs as well as a Mumu buff might make it so that you play 4 automata quick striker again, right? Those quick striker buffs, automata buffs, and a Mumu buffs. So before, the old line that you would play with Nocturne reroll was 4 automata, 4 quick striker. So with all of those changes, you might be able to play that again. So that's gonna be fun. I hated that comp, but you know what it is. Singed, decreasing the spell AS. This was a big reason to play Singed. It's why, like, a lot of times you played Singed with Zeri, you played Singed with Renata. It's just so much utility for a tanky unit that usually becomes hard to kill later in the game. And for a 1 cost, he gave just a lot of value to your board. So it makes sense that it's getting nerfed a little bit. It doesn't seem like that big of a nerf, but 3-star Singed is like a big nerf, right? Like you know, like this is 4-star, right? So this is 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. So what is that? 30 is like 30 on 160, 30 on 150 is like 20%, so it's like around 20% difference. That's pretty massive. That's a big number change. It might make it so that you don't go for Singed as often, because right now, like, let's say you're playing Renata reroll, you usually roll Renata on level 5. If you haven't been rolling Renata on level 5, you're kind of throwing a little bit, because you get such a huge spike from having Singed 3 and just having him live, that a lot of times you roll on level 5 to try and hit Singed 3 and one of the other backliners 3-star, and then you level later, and then if you didn't find Renata, you find her after. You rarely roll on level 6, I think. Like, you could roll on level 6 if you're not finding any Singes, or if you're really behind on Singe, but usually you're rolling on level 5 for that reason. So maybe now it will just be an always roll on level 6. It might, like, you know, it might not be situational, and you just go for Rel. Akali, decreasing the mana, so another quick striker buff. I'm really thinking that quick striker is going to be a meta reroll comp, which makes me really sad because I don't want to see any more reroll comps, so, you know, that's great. Renata, they're making the mana a little bit higher, so that's a little bit that's a little bit annoying, but it shouldn't really change that much. But this comp, a lot of people hated it, and then the secondary damage is getting absolutely nerfed. So a lot of times, like, Renata would hit multiple units. So this secondary damage is like that multiple unit hitting. It's not like her main blast. It's like the little burst afterwards. These are pretty massive changes because this is a huge decrease, right? Like 350 to 290. That's like what, like a 20% decrease again. So we had Singe decrease, Renata decrease. I don't think the comp is going to be broken. Also, nerf to visionaries. This comp's just going to be less hard forceable. I think a lot of times now people will, like, 2 people will contest Renata, or even 3 people will contest Renata. It's becoming a little bit degenerate. I don't think this comp is that good unless you have a spot for it, because your items have to be very specific. So a lot of times people force into it, and then you have suboptimal items. If you don't have Archangels, Shojin, you're probably just losing the game anyways. You know what I mean? So it's like, whatever. Vander buffs, I think, are really dumb here. We gotta hope that they've nerfed gloves off. 5 AD is a massive change. 5 AD is a lot. It looks like a small number. This is massive because it's base AD. Like, if I don't see a gloves off Vander nerf, that's going to be so degenerate. It's already degenerate. And then 5 armor and MR on a Watcher unit is massive. This is an insane change. Like, family reroll is definitely going to be broken. Like, how in the frick? Like, what? I don't get it. This I don't understand. I don't understand this at all. I do not understand this at all. So we're going to hope that the devs got me, and later on there's like a gloves off nerf. Because, like, alone this is a massive change, right? But this guy also has a hero augment. You know what I mean? It's like, huh? I don't get it. Leona, mana reduction. I think Leona is kind of like the weirdest, like the weird one of the Sentinels. She's like she's so much less tanky than everybody else, and I don't know why. So hopefully this helps a little bit. Just earlier cast, I think when she casts, she does like a durability thing. I forget, because I never play this unit because she kind of sucks unless you're playing Academy. Usually when you're rerolling, you often go for Rel. So, you know, yeah. Urgot, these are pretty massive changes. So they already nerfed Urgot before, and he's already been a little bit less consistent. This is really like shooting Urgot in the foot. I don't know if Urgot's going to be good anymore. It's hard to say. The HP change is pretty massive this might make it so that you can only play Urgot with Unleash the Beast. And I know that sounds a little bit harsh, but that is a massive change. Because Urgot, you usually want a solo frontline. If you're losing base HP, you make it so difficult for this Urgot to stay alive. A lot of times, Urgot lives by the clutch. Like, he gets a little bit more attack speed. Yes, that's cool. So he'll keep his Pit Fighter, like, Omnivamp up a little bit. But, like, reduced mana, right? Or, like, higher mana threshold is pretty bad. Because the whole point of Urgot, the way Urgot works, if you guys don't understand, or if you guys don't know, I'll explain to you how Urgot works. Urgot, you put as a solo frontline. Everybody hits Urgot. Urgot's experiment bonus is that when he casts, he gains a percentage max health shield, and he gains AS. So what you do with Urgot, you put him in the solo frontline, you make him cast, because when you get hit, you absorb damage, and when you absorb damage, you generate mana. So by taking damage, he generates mana, and then he gets a health shield. So the health shield helps him to survive. He gets attack speed, so he gets a bunch of burst of attack speed. He starts doing damage with either 4 Artillerist or multiple Pit Fighter or experiment bonus with True Damage Zyra. He pumps out damage like no tomorrow, and he heals with the Omnivamp. And then he does that repeatedly. There's items on him that are really good because of that. That's why usually, like, if you're taking an Anomaly, you give him an HP or an armor Anomaly, because he has enough damage through Artillerist, and he has enough damage through experiment bonus with the true damage. You just want him to, like, chain cast and be a giga tank in the front line. But what did they do this patch? They nerfed his mana, which makes him cast less, right? It's going to be harder for him to cast to get that health shield, and they reduced his HP, so he's going to get less of a health shield. Like, that is a real, like, these numbers, it doesn't matter what the numbers are, these are massive nerfs. I do not see I am not going to play Urgot until I see somebody else play Urgot. Like, that's the idea. Or you might have to only play with Unleash the Beast. Like, because Unleash the Beast is giga broken on Urgot, because it gives him, like, a bunch of HP and a bunch of attack speed, and he's immune to stun. So it's, like, everything that he wants to use. I don't get it. I don't understand why he's getting axed so hard, because I didn't even feel like Urgot was the broken reroll. But it's like, we got to see what they're doing with some of the augments, right? Once we see the augments, we'll have a better idea of if these changes make a lot of sense. But Urgot, I would avoid him next patch. This looks grim to me. Obviously, you can try it out, and maybe it's still fine. That's totally valid. That's totally true. But until I see somebody else use him, I'm not going to touch him. You know what I mean? 3 costs. Oh, boy. Okay, let's go through this. So, Blitzcrank, Spell Shield getting increased. There was Automata buffs. There was Quick Striker buffs. I think Quick Striker with Blitzcrank is going to be a thing again. Everybody in that realm is being buffed. We have Nunu buffs. Nunu has been pretty, like, not that tanky, I feel. So this is pretty good. Just, like, solid across the board buff for Nunu. Nunu, like, yeah, he's just kind of, like, a little bit underwhelming as a frontline or as a tank. So that's that. Swain, they buffed for Form Swapper. This is backline Swain, right? The secondary spell damage. So backline Swain was really strong. And a lot of times you can stabilize off backline Swain, especially with emissary boards. So this kind of nerfs that a little bit, especially the 2-star. It's not that big of a change, as you can see. It's like a smaller percentage. It's like maybe like, you know, 5%, right? 5% change. Here it's like, yeah, like 5% change-ish. A little maybe less, depending. So it's not that big of a nerfs, but it's just to make him a little bit less overpowered. A lot of times you can just carry Swain 2 for much of your game and then go fast 9. So this makes that a little bit less consistent, I think. Cassiopeia, they buffed this like 100 times. There's going to be a point where Cassiopeia reroll is going to be broken. I don't like that world because I think it's annoying to have another reroll comp. But I would try out Cassiopeia reroll this patch, especially with Blitzcrank buffs. I don't know what the board would look like in particular. It might be like some sort of like weird Black Rose Dominator, except you play Cassio. But this is crazy because they already buffed this massively last patch, this Miasma damage, and they're buffing it again. I felt like there was already some Cassiopeia rerollers in the lobby, and they occasionally went top 4. Like, if your spot was good for it, it was good to play for like a 3rd or a 2nd, and then if you hit Mordekaiser, you can get like a top 2, top 1. So now this might actually be a reroll line, which is like great. It always happens like this, where at one point in the set, it just devolves into full reroll, and I think that's the line that we're going down right now. And I really liked it when there was a balance of 4 costs, but that's just me. So, you know, this is where I probably quit the set, but we'll see how it goes, of course. Rennie is pretty good. This is a large amount of spell healing. So Rennie already I felt like was one of the better frontline units, but this might make some sort of reroll with like bruisers work. I think Rennie is just really reliable as a frontline unit. And her stun is massive. Her stun is so good. Like, sometimes a Rennie 1 could, like, take down an Urgot. Because you just stun the Urgot, he stops healing, and the rest of your team cleans up. Her stun is so good. So, getting a reduced mana by 10, if she can get one more stun off per fight, this can easily sway your game. So, you want to make sure that you always hold on to Rennies, especially early game, especially mid game. Because even if you're not going to play her, these can save you a lot of HP, right? Healing more so she survives longer, and maybe gets an extra stun off. Who knows? Might be broken. I would be careful. Next slide. Alright, champs 4 cost. So, Silco 1, they're making more Vile damage. And then Silco 2, they're making more minion damage. I think Silco was already kind of awkward. The problem with Silco is just that he takes time to ramp up. And the meta is very, like, explosive. So he kind of fell off because of that reason. I think that sometimes I've seen Silco players top 1 in the lobby. It's not that bad. But like I said, you have to have a really good spot for it. Either good items, good units, hitting Silco early, finding a Mordekaiser, that's your win con. Finding multiple upgraded 5 costs is your win con. So I don't think this is going to change anything. I don't think Silco's going to be broken. These don't look like big enough numbers. Twitch. 20% experiment HP bonus instead of 15. So this actually works out really well. I'm not sure how much extra damage this is going to be, but this is a large amount of Twitch damage. You might look at it. Basically, the way Twitch works is that he takes his HP and then it does more damage based on his HP. Like there's some scaling on his HP with his auto attacks in terms of his experiment bonus. The reason that works out really well is because usually you're playing Twitch with Mundo. And if you pair Twitch with Mundo, Mundo gives HP per takedown. So this Twitch will scale up his HP and do more experiment bonus damage that way. That's how that kind of works. With some of the buffs to Sniper, this might make it so that Twitch has a little bit more consistent damage. The biggest problem with Twitch is that you can easily position around him because the experiment hexes forces you to know which side the Twitch has to be on because of how strong the experiment bonus is. So buffing the experiment bonus, maybe that helps. I wish they just reworked experiment, but obviously it's too late in the set to do that. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't know if Twitch is going to be broken with this. It is a substantial change. 15 to 20%. That's like a 25% increase, right? It's hard to say. I think Twitch is good in certain spots now. I just don't know if it's forceable because it feels very conditional. It's hard to fit in all the front line that you need as well as all the backline damage. And also, this isn't a raw Twitch buff. This is an experiment Twitch buff. So this means that you still have to play the experiment board, right? You can't play like variations without where you drop Mundo and you just play like 4 sniper, or you play like 2 sniper or something like that, or you do some cookery boards. It also doesn't matter with built diff, like stuff like that, where Twitch actually shines a lot. So, you know, we'll see. Okay, 5 cost champs. So, Caitlyn, decreasing the amount of damage, like around a 10%, less than 10% decrease. That's fine. She's been really broken. Rumble, less armor and less spell damage. That's good. This is a massive nerf, but I think Rumble is the best 5 cost in the game, just if you got him early. So it makes sense that he just doesn't, you'll just plop him on his board and just 1v9s late game. So these are substantial changes. The 1-star isn't that greatly affected, and that's usually where you're going to have your Rumble. And a lot of times when you have Rumble 2, you have the upgrades where this isn't going to be your main source of damage anyways. So I think this is okay. Like, I don't think Rumble's going to be unclickable trash unit that you don't play now. It's just going to be like less of like, oh, that guy just wins for free. Found a Rumble instantly. You know what I mean? LeBlanc, massive decreases to primary spell damage and massive decrease to spell damage sharing. Like, what is that? That's like a 10% at minimum. 75, 90 is like 10%, but 10% nerfs on 1-star and 2-star. This is a pretty substantial change. It might make Sorks a little bit less consistent. A lot of times now with Sorks, you find one LeBlanc and you're basically like, yep, I'm top 4. This might make it a little bit less consistent or damage. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't think Sorks is going to be unplayable, but there's a lot of nerfs that came Sorks' way. Obviously because it's a really strong comp, but this seems like a lot. Sevika, better casting. That's fine. With Pit Fighter changes, I think Sevika is going to be high cap a lot of the times. Innervating Locket. Mana gain can no longer overflow. Works the same way as mana gain from taking damage directly. Was this a bug? Can no longer overflow. Well, this is a huge nerf to Urgot. So if you don't know, this item was broken on Urgot, because remember we just explained Urgot in the video. If you guys were paying attention, I'm not going to re-explain it, but what this did is that it generated mana for you when you got hit, which is exactly what you want with Urgot, and then it also recovers your HP. So this as another nerf makes you have a one less Urgot out, because now you're just going to not be able to chain cast anymore. So that's great. Man, Urgot really got destroyed. Is Urgot like really broken in like EU or something, or like China servers or something? Like, Urgot is not that good in NA servers. Like, it's good, but it's not broken. It's like you play it if there's another reroller and you have a good spot for it, but you don't force into it, right? It's not like as broken as like Renata or something. But I feel like Urgot got more nerfs than like Renata, but maybe Renata got a lot of nerfs as well. It's hard to say. Diversified portfolio plus properly revert to 1 gold per 3 traits. Okay, so now this is no longer broken, I think. I don't think it's broken anymore. Kingslayer, well, actually, I think it's okay. Maybe it just wasn't working. Kingslayer, gold per win is now increased to 6. I think Kingslayer has potential to be good, but it's just very situational, the spot that you're in. But usually you take this if you're trying to play reroll, and you basically just sack stage 2, get low on HP, and then earn back all the gold on stage 3. I don't know if it's good, because it's hard to gauge how powerful gold later in the game is. 6 gold per round, if you generate 6 gold per round, it is massive, right? It definitely is massive, but it's just so hard to like plan that out that you need to have like such an awkwardly high roll game. Do you know what I mean? It's very difficult for me to gauge how strong it is, because I feel like you take this and you're kind of there's like a huge gamble with it. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a huge gamble with this, because even if your spot is really good for the augment, it might not work out and you might just grief your game entirely. So I don't know how to put it on a spectrum of how strong it is without trying it out myself, which I'll try maybe one time. I already wanted to try it out, but I just never had a spot for it, so we'll see. Support mining plus. That's required 5. That's good. This was one of the most broken silvers, so they made it one turn more. That's fine. Table scraps. Carousels granted from 4 to 3. Yeah, it was one of the better ones. They just reintroduced it. I think it was really good. Titanic Titan. They're increasing the amount of HP. I think this one's pretty shit, because the carousel rounds, like sometimes like there's an item on your side and somebody makes it to it first. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. Oops, sorry, I skipped gold. Gold augments. So climb the ladder, giving 5 to 6. This is really good with certain comps. Like, you know, you can imagine like comps where you share all of the same. Like you're playing vertical into a trait. This is like a really good thing for vertical into the trait. Gloves off. They reduced the bonus damage. Thank God, because they needed to do something, because they giga buffed Vander. I think gloves off is still gonna be broken because they giga buffed Vander, but maybe that's just me. Overheal bonus damage getting increased. This is actually massive. Wait, overheal. Is overheal what I'm thinking of, chat? I'm not sure. Give me 1 second. Augments. Every third attack deals an additional 100. Oh yeah, this is broken. Wait, why are they doing that? Hold on. They're increasing the bonus damage? Okay, guys, you know what overheal is good with? Zeri, Twitch. It was broken with these units, like the Gwinsu users, right? Because if every third attack deals extra damage, you just like absolutely like wreck people. So you don't even care about the extra healing and stuff. It was just like you take it with like a Gwinsu user, like an auto attacker. You put this on an auto attacker and they just pop the fuck off. It was also really good with Vander, because Vander, like, you know, like gloves off Vander, like you just get the overheal all the time because you put double healing on him. So this was good with like Omnivamp users with double healing and just burst damage, right? Like some of them, like even like ambushers, it was sometimes really good with, but it was really good with Gwinsu users. So like I don't know why it's getting buffed. Maybe it's not as good as I thought it was. Like they know better than me, obviously, because they have stats and I don't. But like this shit was broken. I feel like it was broken, so I don't understand why it's getting changed. Spirit Lake also is situationally very strong, so I don't understand this change either. Mentorship nerf, that makes sense. Oh wait, team up mentorship. Which one's that? That one I don't know. Did they just nick? Did they just? What is that? Trait? What's mentorship? Sharing AD? I don't know, maybe it's martial law. Who knows what they're talking about? I don't know, chat. I don't know what mentorship one is, but it's getting nerfed, so it must have been broken. Reunion, I think, is the best of the team up ones, so this nerf makes sense. It's just really good, fits in really easily. Too much value is granting 2 less 2 costs. That's fine. I just played a game with too much value. This augment is broken. Because it basically gives you so many rerolls for a lot of the reroll comps. I think if you're playing around reroll, you almost always take it. It's especially good with Tristana Urgot, because you play Tristana Urgot, and then you can play like multiple things. You get like 3 free rerolls per turn. It's like 6 gold per turn a lot of the time. Just make it so you have a little bit less of a head start, but I still think it's good. This was just like icing on top of the cake, right, to get you started early, because you would basically get 4 at the start of the game, and you would just play those 4 units, sack all of stage 2, and then just hard force something on stage 3. Like, that's how it used to go. Unleash the Beast, CC duration from 10 to 5. Bro, they fucking gutted Urgot, and I do not understand why. Like, I want to see these changes. If they're doing this, I want to see these changes to everything. Like I'm glad that one of the rerolls is just gone, but the problem with Urgot is that usually if you're rolling Urgot, you roll Tristana anyways. So now there's still a reroll that exists there. You know what I mean? It's just Tristana reroll, and you just don't care about Urgot anymore. But like, what is this? They nerfed every aspect of Urgot's kit, got nerfed here. It's like, were there not bigger offenders this patch than Urgot? I don't even think Urgot was the biggest offender, but I guess they nerfed some of the other stuff as well. That's crazy. I'm just never gonna play Urgot anymore. They decided. Oh, bet. Nice. They fixed Hive Mind. I was just talking about this yesterday. Okay, wait. Sorry. Well, let's go through these ones. Bully, decreasing the damage app. I already don't think Bully is that strong. So, like, I don't understand this, but sure. Freestyling, increasing the damage. This is really good. I think it makes it a little bit easier to take it in cases where even you're not actually freestyling. So, that's pretty crazy. Heavy Hitter, increasing it. That's fine. Hive Mind. They fixed the bug. This was the bug I was talking about, that sometimes it just doesn't work. So now you might actually take Hive Mind, but of course I'm not going to take it until I know for sure it's bug fixed. So I'm going to wait till somebody else takes it and then look at their board, because I've learned the hard way that Riot Games says this line multiple times and it's wrong. So I still don't believe them, because yeah, I think they already said they fixed it in the past. Hunger for Power. That's fine, but it's very situational. Hypervelocity, I think, was really shit, so giving more starting base AS is good. Infectious, it already got nerfed from 15 to 12, now it got nerfed down to 10. This is getting more and more unlikely that you can take it. I recently said it's Giga S tier, and you should almost always take it if you have a spot for it. Your spot now has to be significantly better, right? You only want to take this from ahead. The lower this number of starting is, the worse off you're going to be, because you're basically just playing down an Anomaly a lot of the time. And Repulsor, more AS. So they buffed some of the AS options, which is really good, because sometimes you really want starting AS on certain units, and then the Anomalies didn't feel like they were up to snuff with everything else. So a lot of times I never took these, because, you know, if I'm looking for a unit, unless I really needed attack speed, I'd say, okay, I'm going to roll this because I can also take AD, or I can also take a tank Anomaly, and it often worked better that way. So I think this is fine. The only one I don't understand is nerfing Bully, but it might be because of the reroll nature of the patch, right? It might just be like a really commonly taken broken one. You know what I mean? Sorry. And it might also be really broken on like family reroll if that becomes really meta. Oh, bug fixes. Sorry, that was Mortdog. Make sure to like and subscribe to Mortdog stuff. Bug fixes. Fire Sale now interacts correctly with Starry Night. I didn't know this was a bug, but sure. Swapping a unit during the Thieves' Glove ceremony can no longer cause the unit to visually linger in its old hex. This happened on Soju's stream. I saw it. So it didn't happen to me, but I saw it on Soju's stream, if you remember. Swapping 2 units on the board can no longer cause the strongest unit calculations to change for purpose of hero augments and anomalies. Swapping 2 units on the board can no longer start the calculations to change. Yes, this happens a lot if you're doubling up on your units and they have an anomaly. But I didn't really care, because basically you can just like swap them again and then it would fix it. Like, this was fixable. But I guess like if you're unprepared for it, it messes with your head. Swapping 2 units on the board can no longer cause trait activation VFX to play. Okay, I don't really care about that. Rolling a Jace with Pandora's Bench no longer failed to give you a Hextech Forge. I've lost games because of this. Like, literally, I've literally, like, had a Jace where I was rolling it, and I got Jace 2, and then I didn't have the Hextech Forge. And I just didn't, like, I've lost a game because of this. That's so tilting. It's finally fixed, like, a month later. Thank God. Salvage no longer deletes item when sold off units transformed by Pandora's Bench. I didn't know about that. Using a Reforger on a unit in combat will no longer delete the Forger. I didn't know about that. The main bug I remember was Hive Mind. I'm trying to think if I know of any other bugs right now, because I think they all got kind of sorted out. There is the, I don't know if it got fixed. There's the scrap bug. With, I think it got fixed as well. The Crown Guard bug with scrap. But other than that, that's fine. Okay. Patch review. Final thoughts. I think Family is going to be better. I think Pit Fighter is going to be better. I think that Renata is going to be a little bit less consistent, but still going to be fine because the comp seems like it's really strong. The front line didn't change too much with it, so if you have a ramping up Archangel's Renata, you'll still be able to win. You just have to have a good spot for it to make sure that you have multiple 3-star frontline units. I think Urgot is completely gutted. I think if you're trying to play around Artillerist or that type of line with AD reroll, you're pretty much forced into Tristana or Zeri. I think Zeri, by nature of like sniper changes as well as other changes, got a lot of buffs. And I think reroll Quick Strikers is going to be significantly more meta. I think reroll Quick Strikers was already pretty good in certain situations. And now I think that for Automata, Quick Striker reroll is going to be a meta comp again. And that comp has really high win conditions because obviously if you just hit the Nocturne ranged item, you just win for free. I've played it before without range as well, and it's still really strong. There's just all around buffs to that whole kit. Maybe Twitch is a little bit better, Sork's a little bit weaker. Meta didn't change too much, but it might just be, if Cassiopeia reroll becomes a thing, I think that it will be very reroll focused, the meta, and there will probably be reroll contests more likely in your lobbies. I think that playing around 4 costs, you want other people to play around 4 costs. They only buff Silco a little bit, so all the other 4 cost comps are around the same. And they potentially nerf Scrap. I don't know if that's official yet. If they nerf Scrap, then you even lose that option, which was one of the better 4 cost comps to play. So, I don't know. Like, it's not looking good for our 4 cost friends, is what I will say. But I digress. Have fun. Enjoy the patch. And I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully that was useful. Bye-bye. Thank you.